For a while now, beam weapons have sat at the top of the DPS charts in Warframe, and today we're gonna be taking a look at one that is slightly less popular. Okay, a lot less popular, the freeze ray Glaxion. Hey guys, hello and welcome back. As always, my name is Leyzar, and we're gonna be diving deeper into this mastery rank 8 primary weapon. I'm gonna be covering a cheap build, something affordable that anybody can build, but of course we also have the classic end-game setup with a Riven. That being said though, please keep in mind that my builds and guides follow a new player-friendly approach, simply because there's a lot of info here and I want anybody watching to understand how the weapon functions and how it should be built. But you might be a veteran of the game and not interested in all this new player business. You're invited to skip ahead or have a bit of patience. And with that out of the way, let's jump into the Glaxion. Let's begin by having a look at how the weapon behaves without any mods equipped, and for that I'm gonna need a couple of targets. The Glaxion is a freeze ray, and as you fire at enemies they will get progressively slower and slower, and upon death they will kinda have this ice shattering effect to them. Now the wiki says that it's guaranteed that normal enemies, not these guys, these are corrupted heavy gunner, will get shattered into multiple corpses, which will synergize well with necros. The wiki also states that this effect it's not really visible all the time, so I guess we're gonna have to take their word for it, because I do see the effect on lancers for examples or on butchers, but on these guys I don't really see the effect, and I don't see necros desecrating 2 corpses instead of 1, but there you go. Back to the Glaxion, we have a 24-meter range on the freeze ray. That's it, 24 meters, and of course this one can be extended with Sinister Reach. Being a beam weapon, that means you're not getting 100% of its damage as soon as you pull the trigger. What you're getting is 30% and quickly ramping up to 100% of its damage over the course of 0.6 seconds. After firing stops for 0.8 seconds, the damage will remain at 100%, but then it will quickly decay back to the original 30% over the course of 2 seconds. And well, that's pretty much it. Let's jump into stats to see precisely what we're dealing with. Mod capacity is gonna be 60 out of 60, and if your Glaxion has only 30 out of 30, jump into actions and install the arcane catalyst. This one can be found from alerts, invasions, or if you're lucky, from the daily sortie. And you can also pay 20 plat to have this one plugged in. Next, my weapon has been formatted a total of 6 times, but this was done only for the purpose of testing. The problem with the Glaxion, well, one of the problems is that it doesn't come with any polarity at all, and you're gonna have to format at least 4 times for the weapon builds I'm recommending you. The accuracy is 100 for the Glaxion, pinpoint accurate with a 24-meter range. That means that heavy caliber is highly recommended. It brings it down to 25.2. Never mind the math, don't think about it. It's fine, trust me, it still remains pinpoint accurate for the most part, even with heavy caliber. Critical chance is very low at 8%, so if I was to slap on crit chance effects, they're not really gonna make that big of an impact. Even point strike with 150% only brings it to 20%. From my point of view, going to percentage-based increases of crit chance is not really worth it on the Glaxion. What you can do is use Harrow to guarantee your crits, or Arcane Avenger that will give you 30% additive after, bumping this to 38%. Crit multi is not bad at 2.0x, so Avenger will definitely be worth it, and it will work fantastically well with Harrow. A fire rate of 12 with a magazine of 80 and a reload of 2.2. Now that reload is a tad on the long side, but then again you do have 80 magazine size, and keep in mind that this being a beam weapon, per ammo you are getting 2 damage ticks on your target. It would be a smart idea, however, considering the magazine capacity, to increase that fire rate a little bit. Riven disposition of 5 out of 5, which means that the Glaxion is not a very popular weapon. Keep in mind that it wasn't very popular before the whole beam weapons change rework thingy. You will see that the Glaxion right now is a fairly potent weapon. High status chance of 34%, and we got default cold damage on the weapon. Think of this cold damage as the last mods, somewhere around here. So for example, if I was to add heat because I'm crazy, I'm gonna make blast on the weapon. So bear that one in mind. In any case, let's start slapping on some mods, starting with mandatory mods: 165% extra damage from Serration and another 165% extra damage from heavy caliber, bringing my cold to 111. Again, forget about the accuracy, it doesn't really affect the Glaxion. Next we're gonna go to multi-shot, the best thing on everything, and we're gonna be adding split chamber with 90% multi-shot. Now this is a beam weapon. Multi-shot will not touch the status chance, as I'm not firing multiple beams at a target. It will increase the damage, however. It seems that multi-shot's damage increase is based off the a modded weapon damage value instead of the base weapon damage value, so bear that one in mind. And we're also going to be adding Vigilante armaments with 60% multi-shot. For the Glaxion, this is not a huge improvement. We're slapping this one on for the multi-shot because the set bonus in our case is almost worthless, because again, we're not really critting. Next, we're gonna go to elemental damage, and elemental damage should always be applied on a weapon depending on circumstance. Where are you going, who are you fighting, and so on and so forth. If we're talking about the infested, there's a lot of them and they're fairly weak. Keep in mind that cold damage, which is what the Glaxion does by default, has negative damage modifiers when it comes to 2 of the infested health types, so it's not exactly an ideal infested killing weapon. I would recommend AoE weapons heavily modded into heat, such as the Ignis Wraith. When you're talking about Corpus, they have big shields, and against big shields you can either build magnetic, or a smarter idea would be to build gas or toxin, as it bypasses their shields entirely and deals damage to their health. The Grineer are currently seen as the toughest targets in Warframe, and against Grineer you gotta take into account the armor type, alloy, which is weak to radiation, and cold damage. Radiation will deal 75% more against alloy armor, and cold will deal 25% more against alloy. And they also are equipped with ferrite armor. Ferrite armor is weak to corrosive, and it will take 75% more damage. Against Grineer, more often than not, your safest bet will be to build corrosive, which is the elemental combo between electricity and toxin. So let's build some, shall we? I'm gonna go for the 90 mod Stormbringer for now, and I'm gonna leave high voltage alone. I will explain why this is just a tad later, but for that I need to show you guys a bit of an example. Next, we're gonna go to Toxin. We're gonna be adding Infected Clip as well as Malignant Force, the 60/60 mod for Toxin. This one is fairly easy to obtain from Corrupted Vor in the Void. If not from the trade chat, you're looking at about 10-ish plat, perhaps even cheaper. Now, there's still one more mod slot left on the weapon, and as stated before, fire rate is definitely a good idea on the Glaxion, and punch through is always worth it, so a smart idea would be to go for Shred, or Prime Shred if you have that one, 55% fire rate and 2.2 meters worth of punch through, but I don't really have that one, so boo-hoo. We're gonna take a look at fire rate options. Speed Trigger is always a super solid choice, 60% fire rate, but my favorite remains Vile Acceleration with 90% fire rate at the cost of 15% damage, this being a corrupted mod. If you don't know how to farm corrupted mods, link in the card right now. Now that minus 15% damage isn't a huge deal, simply think of it as it would take away 15% of your serration. Again, it's not a huge negative, so I do recommend you give Vile Acceleration a try. And this is gonna be the build I'm recommending to you guys, and I will explain why not to 60/60 mods in a second. First, we're gonna have to spawn some targets, Corrupted Heavy Gunner level 120, and hopefully the servers won't give out. Gonna go for flat headshots, and as you can see, the Glaxion is fully capable of shredding through high level targets in a matter of seconds. That is definitely impressive, but what if I go for body shots? Take a look at this. Of course, I'm not killing target as fast as I did before, but more importantly, I am removing all the armor from the target at about the 30 to 40% mark. And if you follow my damage numbers from before, and now you'll see that I'm doing a lot less damage than I was before. With the ferrite armor completely removed from the target, I'm losing my 75% damage bonus that corrosive had. That is not exactly ideal, and if you go for two 60/60 mods, this effect becomes even worse than it is now. So even with a single 60/60 mod, I'm still overstripping the armor for my targets. And I have corrosive on the weapon and cold. Cold doesn't have any sorts of damage bonus when it comes to cloned flesh, which once again is what is left after you remove all of the armor. For this reason, I'm recommending a single 60/60 mod, and then you go for the two 90 mods. Also, this way you at least get to skip high voltage, which is a tad expensive, although it is farmable from the game, from the mission Naelgard, though the grind there is pretty grueling. As you saw there, the Glaxion is quite capable of taking out high level targets in a matter of seconds, so I do recommend the weapon. And there's one more thing, a Riven setup of course, and I got this one for about 100-ish, oh no, 120 plat. Multi-shot, toxin, and electricity. When you're thinking about Glaxion Rivens, you gotta skip the critical chance and critical damage. Okay, you can go for crit damage if you plan on using it only with Harrow, but for a more realistic Riven, again, not every Warframe, actually, who else will guarantee your critical chance? I would recommend you look into multi-shot and damage on your Glaxion Riven above everything else. Having an elemental such as electricity on toxin or whatever you want to build on the weapon, that would also help it a lot. Again, multi-shot damage with a nice negative would be absolutely fantastic. fantastic for the Glaxion. As you can see, this is once again a corrosive setup with a single 60-60 mod, 2 90s, and of course Vile Acceleration. The Glaxion Riven came instead of Vigilante armaments, and we're going to be spawning the exact same targets once again to see what a Dispo 5 Riven can do. Keep in mind that that Riven basically is 290 mods plus split chamber all bundled into one. Dispo 5 is fairly impressive. Also, the performance of the Glaxion is fairly impressive. The competition for the Glaxion is called the Synapse. Now, the Synapse is a fantastic weapon. I absolutely love it. If you want to see a review on that one, link in the card right now. It's basically like the Glaxion, only that one can have pure corrosive and it has a lot of crit chance, so that's why a lot of players love the weapon. But that doesn't mean that the Glaxion cannot pack a punch. Take a look at this. Now that is definitely impressive, at least if you ask me. There's one more thing we gotta do, of course, pump up everything with Warframe buffs. And I know you guys wanna see Harrow because it doesn't have crit, so give it crit please. Very well, let's do it with Lord Harrow. Or Mirage Prime, we can also do that, but let's go for Harrow. Rifle amp, that will give me 27% extra damage to rifles. This is an aura, so everybody in your party will be receiving this benefit, and it is stackable ×4. As for arcanes, we're going to be looking at Arcane Rage. On headshot, 10% chance for plus 120% damage to rifles for 16 seconds. Farmable from the third idol on down on Cetus. I believe that Rage goes for about 100 plat on the trade chat, but I may be wrong. Please check Warframe market. As for our second arcane, we can go for acceleration and forget about our fire rate mod. We can put something else in it. On critical hit, 20% chance for 60% fire rate rifles for 6 seconds, and while the Glaxion may not crit normally, Harrow will see to that one. So we're gonna go with acceleration. But since I'm using Harrow, well, it would be a smart idea to synergize with Harrow, yes? Do I really need now to get some more critical damage? Absolutely. Once again, if you know you're going to be using it with Harrow, go for that. I use my fire rate arcane, so we're going to go to a little bit of crit damage. And crit damage can be obtained very easily with Vital Sense, 120% critical damage. As for the rest, I'm actually going to keep it like this. I can drop another 60 mod and go for bladed rounds, but for now, enough critical damage at 4.4x. Drop my fire rate, but that's not really an issue. We're gonna be respawning the exact same targets, and I'm gonna be using Harrow's 4th ability to guarantee my critical chance. This is a fantastic Warframe. I cannot praise this guy enough. In every single video I use him. I love him. Probably my favorite Warframe. He's considered a support Warframe, although he does have some serious offensive capabilities. 4th ability will guarantee crit, 2nd ability will give me fire rate and reload speed, and you will see that Lord Harrow is fully capable of shredding through high level targets in just a matter of seconds, as you can see. No problem at all, that was just a full clip and I took out 7 out of the 8 targets. Beautiful, isn't it? Absolutely bloody beautiful, but once again we are using heavy duty Warframe synergies. Let's take a look at another one with Lady Mirage Prime. So you guys, don't say I'm cheating with bloody Warframe buffs. There we go, fine. We will use Mirage Prime with Rifle Amp, Rage, and Avenger. In this case, yes, I will use Avenger because I no longer have my guaranteed critical chance. Avenger is a 30% critical chance bonus additive after. So with this one, my Glaxion goes to 38% crit chance. But I need my fire rate back, so I'm going to drop Vital Sense. And I'm going to be using, once again, Vile Acceleration. So let's test the weapon out like this. Same targets as before. And of course, Lady Mirage's free ability for a massive damage increase as well as her clones. That's definitely not impressive as Harrow, but as you can see, the kill time is fairly low on the Glaxion, simply because I'm doing a truck and a half worth of damage. So I do recommend the weapon. It may not be as flashy as something like the Synapse, but there's no question about it that the Glaxion does pack one hell of a punch. And that's pretty much it for the review. I'm gonna thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. If you have any feedback for me or would like to request a specific weapon review, then by all means leave it in the comment section down below. Now, I can't realistically promise you that it will be done by next time or even within a week, because these reviews do take quite a bit of time, but I will be reading through each and every comment. You can also find me on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, all the usual places. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye.